Hey, my friends, it's Leah with your Winning Wednesday, WINSDAY, coming to you on a gorgeous Wednesday afternoon. I hope you're having a wonderfully winning day and a fabulously winning week. It has been a very busy week around here, and it's not going to slow down for several days, but it's all good. We're so thankful for all that the Lord is doing, and I want us to go ahead and get right into the lesson. I've got a couple of announcements at the end, so let's get right into the lesson for today. Today, we're going to continue with our Wednesdays at the Well, Wisdom at the Well. And so we're going to look at James chapter 1 today. So James chapter 1, we started looking at some of that last week. So let's look at some of those things. We talked about in the very beginning of this that wisdom is applied knowledge and applied that leads us to make decisions that will affect our lives in a positive way. So that's using wisdom will do that for us. Now, more importantly, godly wisdom is when we apply knowledge to our lives from a biblical perspective, from a biblical viewpoint and a biblical understanding. So when we do that, this leads us to make decisions that will affect our lives in ways that will have eternal value. And that's what's so important for us. So we want to make decisions based on a biblical perspective so that we can have and do things, act, say things, do things that have eternal value. And so that's what's so important about using godly wisdom. Now, in James, we talked about how he is the brother of Jesus. He wrote this book of James, and he said that when we need wisdom, when we are lacking wisdom, all we have to do is ask God for the wisdom that we need, and he will give it to us liberally, generously, and he will do it. In the King James and the New King James, it says without reproach, which means without criticism. He's not going to criticize us for not knowing something that we can't possibly know because he's God and we're not. He knows that we don't know that because he created us. So he doesn't get upset with us because we don't know something. He wants us to ask him. So, and he does not criticize us when we come to him and say, God, I don't know what to do here. Can you help me? Can you give me some wisdom? Because James says, when you do that, God's going to say, absolutely, here's what you need. Here's what you need to know. So he does it without criticizing us for not knowing. And James said that when we ask, we should do so without hesitation or doubt so that we aren't driven up and down by our emotions. So what he's saying to us then is that, or he described it, let's just say he described it like waves of the sea. So he's saying, we're 1 minute we're up and we're full of faith, and then circumstances of life come around and it just shoves us down and we go crashing down to the bottom, and we're like, no, I can't see God's hand in this. I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. And so we're like up and then we're down and then we're up and then we're down. And he says, don't be like that. When you ask God for something, you ask him with full assurance, knowing that he hears you and that he's going to answer, and you can stand firmly on that faith. Don't doubt in your mind, because if you doubt, then you're going to be like that ocean wave. You're just going to go up and you're going to be all full of faith, and then you're going to fall apart because the circumstances are going to bother you, and it's going to make your faith waver. So he says, don't do that. Stand firmly in your faith. And he actually says it's kind of like staggering around. When you go back to the original language, and it's talking about, yeah, I'm all in, and then no, I can't, and then yeah, I'm all in, and no, I can't. And when you're like that, you're like someone who's intoxicated. They can't walk straight because they're constantly, they don't really know which way they're going. And he said, don't be like that. Know where you're going. Stand firm in your faith. So in verses 19 and 20 of this first chapter of James, it gives us another little tidbit about wisdom. So let's read it. He says, you must understand this, my beloved. Let everyone be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. We could stop right there, but I want to add that next verse. It says, for your anger does not produce God's righteousness. Boy, that's an important fact. You must understand this, my beloved. Let everyone be quick to listen. Lead with your ears. I think we talked about that a few weeks back. Listen with your ears. Lead with your ears. Don't talk first. Listen first. He says, be quick to listen, slow to speak, and really slow to anger. For your anger does not produce God's righteousness. Therefore, verse 21 says, rid yourselves of all sordidness and rank growth of wickedness, and welcome with meekness the implanted word that has the power to save your souls. So we live in a world that does not follow after God's ways because the world does not love God. We just need to face that. We hear a lot from our culture around us going, you Christians, you need to live like this, and you need to, everybody claims to be a Christian, and you need to, and people who don't abide by that standard, don't live by that standard, are telling us how to live by our standard like they know our standard. But the truth is, they don't really know our standard. And so their expectations of us are completely unrealistic or unbiblical. And so we need to not listen to the culture. We need to be paying attention to the word of God. The world does not follow after God because they don't love God. So we love God. So we're constantly trying to make ourselves better and more accurately following the word of God. And so living in this culture, it is certainly not difficult to get pulled into, I kind of want to say pulled into the vortex, the swirling of taking on the character of the world rather than keeping true to the character of God. It's easy to get sucked into that. If you get on social media and somebody is making a religious rant or a political rant, you really want to jump in there and make a comment or something. But wisdom says, don't do that. Because if you're arguing with people who are living in the world, or they have a world perspective, then you're not going to get anywhere with that argument because you don't have an audience with them. They're not going to listen to you. They're not open to any other viewpoint because they're so busy telling you what theirs is. So we need to be careful not to get sucked into those things. So, and of course, right now in our political climate, we see this all over the place because it's an election year and people are at a high point with all their emotions about the way they feel about what's going on. I have my own opinions, but I'm not going to put it online and share it with everybody else because all that does is incite arguments. And, the Word of God tells us, and it's all through the Bible, the New Testament and the Old Testament, it says, God is against those who sow seeds of strife. Don't create conflict with your words. Don't get online and start a conflict with someone just by sharing your opinion about something. Think about what you're sharing. And, I read posts. I have people that are my friends, and they'll post things. I say friends as in Facebook friends, and they'll post things, and I'm just going, oh my goodness, why did you do that? Because all you're doing is inciting an argument. You're creating an argument for all these people to just get in. And I think sometimes people enjoy doing that. They're like the instigator of the argument. And then they get to sit back and pretend that they didn't do that. But we see that a lot. It happens a lot. So we need to be careful not to get sucked into such things. So like I said, we see this right now with this political climate because people are very quick to express their thoughts and opinions and are rather intolerant of one another if somebody disagrees with them. So they become intolerant of such things. And so we have to be real careful. But why is it that they're like that? Because they're all in. They know what they think, and you're not going to change their mind. And you know what? This is what James tells us when he says, don't be double-minded. Know what you think, know what you believe, stand on your faith, and be firm. Don't doubt when you ask God for something. And so he's saying, be intolerant of allowing doubt to come in. He says, don't tolerate doubt. You push it out. You say, I'm standing firm on my faith. Okay. So this can happen whenever, this things happen in our lives. And we can get pulled into something that we don't really want to be part of. We don't really want to be involved in, or we don't like an argument or something like that. It can happen in any stressful time of our lives. It doesn't have to be a political climate. It can be any kind of stressful time that causes our frustration to turn to anger, and our anger becomes angry words that we throw out into the atmosphere. And then somebody is the recipient of those words, and then we've hurt them. So we've got to be very careful about doing that. Our frustration can turn to anger and these angry words without hesitation. And that is why James said we need to hesitate before we speak. Listen, be quick to listen, but be slow to speak. Hesitate. Even if you have a great one-liner, even if you have a great comeback for that person, hold on to it. You know, hold on to it. Don't be quick to release your anger. Hold on to it and think it through. Use your wisdom and then speak. And he says, well, let me say this. Jesus expressed his anger. Okay. Jesus expressed his anger and wrath at the temple when people were trying to make a quick buck, quick dollar off the sacrifices that were required for their worship. So all these money changers were going, well, I'll change that money over into this money. I'll change your Roman money into whatever, or whatever. I'll that over, but I'll do it for this exorbitant fee. Oh, I'll sell you 2 doves, but it's going to cost you a lot. And so that's what they were doing. They were trying to make a lot of money off the people who needed their services. We see that everywhere these days. It's usury. And Jesus said, my Father's house will be a house of prayer, not this. And that's why his anger was righteous. He was indignant about what the people were doing in his Father's house, because this is a place of worship and prayer. It is not a place where you're supposed to make money off of people because of the things that they need to do in order to worship. And so Jesus had this righteous anger that came out. But you know what? His righteous anger and our wrath are not the same thing, because James tells us that our wrath, our anger does not produce the righteousness that comes with godliness. And within ourselves, it's not going to create that. And it's not going to create the person that is the recipient of our wrath. Our wrath, our anger, our angry words only exacerbate the already existing problem, making it worse. And nobody comes out a winner. Nobody comes out a winner, because we lose because our testimony is marred. The other person loses because we probably injured them with our words, the things that we said, the way we spoke to them. And usually that happens with the people that we love the most, doesn't it? We have the biggest frustrations and the biggest arguments with those who can hurt us the most deeply. And so we need to be very, very careful not to do that to one another. So when we belong to God in Jesus Christ, we will adopt and adapt to the principles, the attitudes, the habits, and the characteristics of God rather than those of the world. And that is what James is telling us. Be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger. Don't adapt the culture around you. Instead, stay true to the character, the principles, the attitudes of God, and try to be holy as he is holy. And as you live that way, you're going to live a life of wisdom. What a great lesson for us today. James chapter 1, verses 19 through 21. And so that's the end of today's lesson. I wanted to make a quick announcement. We have 2 things coming up. We have on Tuesday night, well, let me start with this. This weekend, we've got our Women of Worth conference in Wichita Falls. A lot of us from Wellington Church are going, and I am so excited. It's going to be a great weekend with Candy Gibbs being our speaker and with Amanda Cleve doing our worship music. I'm really excited about it. It starts tomorrow. And we're just anticipating a marvelous work of the Lord, because we know that he is in it all. So we're excited about that. So that will be this weekend. Then, of course, we will have our Sunday services this coming Sunday. We have Sunday school at 10 o'clock, Sunday school and discipleship classes for people of all ages, from the nursery to the oldest adult. So we invite you to join us for that. If you are in the Wellington area, you'll have to come and do that in person. But we do live stream our worship service, which is at 11 o'clock on Sunday morning. And of course, we're on Central Time because we're in Texas. And if you are in the Wellington area, our address is 1000 Emerald Street in Wellington, Texas. And we would love for you to join us in person. If you are not in Wellington, we will live stream that service at 11 o'clock. So join us online right here on this Facebook page that you're watching today. And the last thing I want to talk about, or maybe next to the last thing, Tuesday night, we're going to have something really exciting, and that is to celebrate a book release. It's the book launch of our own Kathy Christ's book called grace of God from the darkness into the light. And so we're really excited to get to host this book launch party for her. It starts at 6:30. It's there at the church in the fellowship hall. That's 1000 Amarillo Street in Wellington. So we would love for you to join us for that. It's going to be a reception and hopefully a book signing if the copies of her book arrive in time. That's the goal. So we're praying for that to happen so that we can have a book signing. And so you will have a meet and greet with the author. And so it's going to just be a lot of fun, just reception with light hors d'oeuvres and things to be served. So we hope you'll join us for that. And then last announcement is Wild and Free on 83 is coming up the next weekend. So that is going to be all weekend long. So look at the Collingsworth County announcement about that. There's all kinds of stuff going on. It's fun for the whole family, and we would love for you to join us for that. And then that Sunday morning, there will be a service at the river at Pioneers Park. So we hope that you will join us for that. Pioneers Park is located on Highway 83, in case you don't know, that's just north of Wellington. So I hope that you can make it to one or all of these events. We are so excited about all of these things. God is doing wonderful things in Wellington, Texas, and we are excited to be part of that. So hope you'll join us for one of these things or all of these things or some of these things, and that you will have a great weekend. And we will see you on Sunday for sure. Some of you ladies I will see at the Women of Worth conference starting tomorrow. So have a great week, a wonderfully winning day, a fabulously winning week, and I will see you at one of these events. See you then.